Good morning, afternoon, or evening, everybody, and welcome to ReZOO, the Zoo Review Podcast. I'm your host, Jack Baker, and today I am joined once again by my incredible co-host and fellow passionate zoo lover, the one and only Jodi McFarlane. Say hello, Jodi.
Hello, everyone.
Presented by Pangolin, the conservation podcast. This sister show promises to explore, appreciate, and highlight the fantastic conservation work of zoos from around the world, while also offering a perspective on the visitor experience.
Today we are talking about a zoo close to both of our hearts, the fantastic Highland Wildlife Park. Found in the Cairngorms National Park, this incredible collection is home to some of the most brilliant mountain-based species from across the globe.
As always, we are going to walk you through our day, talk about some of our favourite memories of the park, the animals we loved, and some of the moments which made our visit to the Highland Wildlife Park so unforgettable. We will then wrap up with our 2 stars and a wish. So, without further ado, let's get started. And welcome back to the show. Thank you so much for joining me once again, Jodi, to talk all about one of our favourite places in the world, the Highland Wildlife Park. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
I'm probably not usually that enthusiastically nice to you at the start of this, but I'll be meaner as we go on, don't worry.
Okay.
But I feel like before our usual first question is, what was your previous kind of experience with the Highland Wildlife Park? Mm-hmm. What were your previous memories? And I think at this point I should jump in before we even start the conversation and caveat what I'm about to say and this whole review, which is I work for the Royal Zoological Society of Scotland, who run the Highland Wildlife Park. So yes, we're going to be providing our perspectives and some information about the animals that live there and all sorts of stuff like that. But that is all under the umbrella of a perspective of someone who works there, and therefore there is bias. So get over that. It's my show. I can do what I want. No.
But to be fair, it's owned by the RZSS, but this is not the site that you normally work at.
Fair.
So I feel like we're still kind of fresh visitors.
Yes. So, yeah, for people who don't know, the Royal Zoological Society of Scotland run both Edinburgh Zoo and the Highland Wildlife Park, and I work mostly, pretty much exclusively at Edinburgh Zoo when I work for them. So, yeah, there's slight bias, but yeah, not as biased as I could be, I suppose, which is always a good thing.
Yeah.
And yes, I suppose a second caveat we should make at the start of this is that my lovely co-host here has just had COVID, so her brain is noodles. So if you are used to Jodi's fine, normal perspective on vibes and hot takes and whatever it is, they may be slightly more bizarre today, so you're welcome. Yeah. Let's see how this goes.
But I'm here. That's the main thing.
Yes, that's really what matters, of course, that we're recording this. So yes, with all of those interesting caveats out the way, I feel like we should probably get started.
Yes.
And revert back to that initial question that I posed at the beginning, which is, of course, I forgot what I was going to say. I'm not even the one who's had COVID, which is, of course, what was your previous experience with the park? Had you been there before? How many times? Did you go often? What did you think? Like, what was your preconceptions, Jodi?
So, I had been to the Highland Wildlife Park once before, only once in my life, and it was before I was anything to do with like zoos or that sort of thing. I just went as a normal visitor years ago, and I think it was raining when I went, and I went with my family, and they're not necessarily the biggest animal people, so I feel like I really didn't appreciate as much as I would now. So I was keen to go back with my new zoo eyes and look at it, from this perspective. And I obviously spent years working at Edinburgh Zoo, hearing so much about the Highland Wildlife Park because it is the sister site, and everyone constantly going, "Oh, we need to go. We really must go for a trip and go and see it as a a member of the team." But it just never really happened. So I was very excited to get to go up finally and see it through a zoo person's eyes.
Yes. I have a similar but different experience, which is I love it. I've been so many times. I hadn't been in a while though. I think it had been, about a year. For me, that's a while when I'm not talking about zoos. So I hadn't been in a while, but I was excited to go back. I have some of my happiest memories of childhood were at the Highland Wildlife Park, I remember all of these things, all these significant events that seem to have happened in my life, happening around the Highland Wildlife Park. It's where I realised I wanted to do my MSc. It's where I realised I wanted to really pursue conservation. So I have this kind of emotional bond, which again, if I wasn't biased enough already, then we're throwing in some extra.
There's like weird spiritual connection.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's just this most, like, it's a really important one for me. And I think we talked about in episode 1, we were doing our Meet the Team of like how important it was to us. And so yeah, it's one that I have always loved. And even though it's a bit smaller, it has a smaller collection than a lot of other zoos that we've talked about in terms of like number of species and whatever it is, like it still is just as impressive and special to me in my heart of hearts. I love it. So yes, that's where we're kind of leading in from. Now, of course, we've talked about our history with it. So we did know what we were kind of walking into, but when we drove in this time, what was your first impression? What were your first thoughts? What was running through your head? What were your kind of first initial impressions?
Yeah, so I mean, for me it was quite a fresh first impression because it had been so many years since I'd been before and I couldn't really remember it. So driving in, the first thing was just like the location, because it's just plonked right in the middle of this beautiful countryside. It feels really remote. Was a little bit tricky for us to get to. The sat-nav was trying to take us some other weird way.
Yes, we could have died for you guys listening, so I hope you appreciate us.
But yeah, just beautiful. And we went in, it was a nice sunny morning. It was quite quiet when we drove in. So yes, I feel like it built the excitement because it was like, ooh. Driving in.
Well, I mean, anything would have built the excitement having picked you up, I think, at 8 a.m. that day to drive 2 hours to get there. We were like, we've got to do this. We're going to do it for the polar bears and the whatever it is.
We were just excited to see the toilets by that point. We were like, yes.
So yes, it was a good, strong first impression. I think it's that, like, that satisfaction of finally getting to a place and being like, yes. And it was the same with like when we travelled all the way to Chester and all the way to London. It's like finally walking through the gate of the place where you're going. You're like,
yeah, you've had the stress of the journey and now you're here. Now all the relief comes out and you can just get excited to begin. Exactly.
And like, it was just a good first impression because when you arrive at the Highland Wildlife Park, you can go in on foot or you can take your car in because they do have a drive-through reserve. So you arrive either at the gates, you kind of drive up, you're greeted by people at the gate, which was very, very nice. They were very, very friendly, and it was very strange because I was like, I'm Jack, I work at the zoo. And they were like, Jack! And I was like, I don't know who you are, but you're really excited that I'm here.
I know, they just greeted you like an old friend. They were like, oh yes, you're Jack. Oh yes, we've been expecting you. It's like, oh.
Okay. So yeah, I was like, oh, this is so lovely. I felt like a VIP. We walked in and it drove in. It was just the best time. And yeah, a perfect first impression, I think. Which I'm sure they're that polite and that nice to everyone. It wasn't just us. So it was just fantastic. So you drive into the park, you kind of pass by some camels and yaks and things that we'll talk more about a little bit later on because you also pass them on the way out again. And then you come to your first major decision of your day, which is if you want to drive through the drive-through area or if you want to go and park and do the walk around area first. And so because we'd been driving for 2 hours, we thought, let's get out of the car, let's jump out, we'll go for a little walk, we'll see all the animals that you see on foot, and then we can do the drive-through section. So for anyone who hasn't listened before, we've now arrived. This is the section where we basically will walk you through our day at the zoo. And so, yes, this is my favourite part because it's usually just me rambling about animals for an hour.
This is your warning to get the map out if you want to follow along.
Yes, yes, that's a very good point. Yes, I know there's at least one listener who does that. Shout out to Emily. So anyone else, you can follow along with us. So we've parked in the main car park and we left the car, ran to we really focusing on the toilets. We ran to the toilets. I got a coffee and we started our day and we walked first to the Japanese macaques who, when I was interviewing Jasper Hughes on the podcast a while ago, who works at the Highland Wildlife Park, I mistakenly called Japanese macaws and I was like, that's not right, that's parrots. So it was, yes, that is completely the wrong thing. And so yes, our first animal we encountered were the macaques and little snow monkeys. Excellent first thing to see. What were your thoughts, Jodi?
My first thought was less about the animal and more about the enclosure because this was a really beautiful enclosure. Kind of tucked away because of it's sort of like behind the restaurant, isn't it? And they've got like a seated area for the restaurant that then backs onto the big glass wall that looks into their enclosure. So if you weren't looking for it, you might just think, oh, that's just the restaurant over there. You might miss it.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, beautiful enclosure on a nice sunny blue sky morning. It was just stunning. And then they all sort of started running over as we wandered by. Had lots of climbing frames and a little stream thing in the middle.
It was a massive river, Jodi.
Oh yeah.
It was not a massive lake.
Yeah, it was just really stunning and a nice, like, serene, tranquil little bit to come to first, I think. And we were there quite early, so there wasn't a lot of other people. And yeah, just a really nice first impression.
Yes, I think so. And there's something about seeing these little snow monkeys that you see so often in documentaries and things, and like they're just fantastic. I love them. They're just, yeah, the best. I think they're fantastic little things. And yeah, I think very cute. I've written some interesting facts about them down that I've taken from the Highland Wildlife Park website. Interesting note, they don't have a guidebook. So something to consider when you arrive. They don't have a guidebook. You will get a map.
You don't get a guidebook at Edinburgh either, actually.
No. So interesting. We might have to discuss that towards the end about my full impressions and thoughts on that, but we'll see. So taken from the website is actually filled with great information. So if you've got your phone with you, just pull this up, and it's as good as a guidebook in a lot of ways. And so yes, so interesting things about the Japanese macaques. There was a baby, which was very cute, very, very small. Wanted to give it a cuddle, but obviously that would have been a very irresponsible and bad thing to do. The Japanese macaque, or snow monkey, is the most northern living non-human primate. So everything else more southerly than them. And I guess that kind of fits the theme of the Highland Wildlife Park. Because for people who don't know, the Highland Wildlife Park is all animals that you'll find in kind of these, like, kind of wintry, alpine-y, snowy, mountainous biomes. So having a monkey that represents that is actually fantastic. It's a really good idea because it kind of, sorry, they're not a monkey. Are they a monkey or are they an ape?
Yes, so because normally monkeys, I know this because we've got Barbary macaques.
My brain. Okay, please explain, Jodi.
We have got Barbary macaques at my current workplace, and people always ask this because the difference between monkeys and apes, most notably, is that monkeys have got a big long tail, apes do not. Macaques don't have the big long tail, so people think it's an ape, but it's because they have adapted to not need them. Or anyway, the Barbary macaques have, because, you know, they live on, like, the Rock of Gibraltar and that kind of thing. So over time, they've adapted to just not need them. So presumably, maybe it's the same with those guys.
Interesting. I'm glad you're here, because I was, you know, that way where I was talking quite passionately, and then I had my classic moment of, am I incorrect on the pod?
I always have this, though. It's my one thing, because it's a bugbear when people are like, look at the monkey, and they're like looking at a chimp. So I always try to be correct and have to, like, explain to people the difference. So yeah, the macaques is one that people always ask about, because they go, oh, they look like little monkeys, but they don't have a tail. So I can always tell people that
interesting.
That's the thing.
So the point I was making before I got so confused was Highland Wildlife Park is all animals from these northerly things. And so to have a monkey representative of that is fantastic, because I think a lot of people think them as very tropical. They think of them in jungles or up trees that are kind of covered in lush kind of leaves, and biomes that are filled with beautiful massive flowers and tropical snakes and things spiders crawling around them and stuff. So to have a more northernly primate is an excellent choice, and I think a great one to kind of have representative there. They are the subject of many Buddhist stories and are represented in the three wise monkeys, see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil.
I love that.
Based on the macaques, which is quite interesting. I didn't know that before I was reading this up. They're very cute. They like to bathe in natural hot springs, so they're very clever. They know how to stay nice and warm in that cold environment. What else? They live in large social groups known as troops. And yes, they were kind of have that dominance ranking. And mothers will actually their daughters will inherit their rank once they move on. So they kind of are quite royal in their way that they run things. And yes, a little bit of a conservation message, and what threatens them out in the wild is that they've been hunted for food, medicine, or killed while they've been kind of raiding crop fields. So that's kind of the threats they face out in the wild as well, and that kind of conservation, something that we need to be thinking about. So fun facts, plus I need to stop dropping in the really dark conservation messages right into the they have fun things. Also, they're dying. It's quite but it's an important thing to highlight as well. So
I have a fact about macaques, and I don't know if this applies to the Japanese macaques or if it's just Barbary macaques, it might offset that dark message because it's quite cute. They have, you know how hamsters have the big like cheek pouches with the big puffy cheeks? Macaques have got, or Barbary macaques anyway, have got cheek pouches that can hold as much food as their stomachs. Mm-hmm. So if it's the same for those guys, then there's a comical image for you.
I love that.
Offset that dark bit of conservation.
Good work, Jodie. Good work. Good save. Excellent. And yeah, I think it's a lovely thing to see right at the beginning because they are.
I feel like there was loads of them as well.
Oh, there was hundreds.
Like you look in at first, be like, oh, there's one, there's another one, and then we got over to this side, and it was like, oh, wait a minute, there's loads.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and
chilling.
And it was like they just kept appearing and appearing and appearing, and like more would appear over a hill. And the advantage of the Highland Wildlife Park, because it is in the Cairngorms National Park, it has so much space for different animals, and these are one that really benefit from that. And it really felt
like they could just like up the top end if they wanted to.
Yep.
And like, okay, we might not be able to see them, but they just had such a nice space. Like they could just roam about, do what they wanted. We also saw them getting fed a little bit later on in the day, didn't we?
Yes.
We were having lunch and someone wandered by and tossed a bit of food in for them. So that was cute.
That was very cute and very, very nice. And I think it was, just wholesome to be having lunch with them because it's right next to that restaurant building. So very, very nice. Very, very, very nice. But moving on, we've talked about macaques, macaws and monkeys and apes far too much now. And we shall move on to the next animal that we encountered, which was the Amur Tigers, the largest species of tiger in the world. I think it's the world's largest cat as well as the Amur Tiger. So one of the most impressive animals you're going to see at the Highland Wildlife Park. One of the crowd pleasers, I think. Especially crowd pleasing because at the moment, Highland Wildlife Park is home to 5 Amur Tigers.
Yes.
You have
so impressive.
The 2 adults, you have Dominica and Botsman, and then you have the 3 cubs who were born in May 2021, 2 girls and a boy named Nishka, Layla and Alexander. So cute, wholesome
so cute.
names. I love them, and they are, I remember when I went last year, in August last year, I went and saw them and they were just so little and so cute. And I feel like they're still little enough to be like cute, but also now big enough to be like, you're quite frightening. Like they're that fun like size of like, very, very
They've
satisfying.
got to the point where they're a bit more grown up, a bit more independent. So they're not necessarily with mum all the time, but they're still playful.
Yes,
so
yes.
Very, very amusing to watch.
Mm-hmm. And I do love the dynamic of like currently, I don't know when this goes out, I don't know if this is still the case, but they're trying to mix mum and dad in with them. And like, it's fine when like dad is in there with them by himself, and it's fine when mum is in there with them by himself. But if dad and mum are in at the same time, mum is always like, stay away from my kids. I love the like family dynamic of like, she is still so protective of them even though they're now a year old.
Yeah,
it's very, very sweet, and very, very kind of like I don't know, I quite appreciate the fun family dynamic of this group. And I mean, we've talked lots about Amur Tigers before. I think they come up in our Whipsnade review. They come up in, is it just Whipsnade actually? Maybe just Whipsnade. They came up in our Whipsnade review because we talked about
we're always talking about tigers of some sort.
Shape, some shape or form. But just a little reminder for anyone that there's only about 450 Amur tigers left in the wild. Luckily, because of zoos and the work of zoos, there is projects going on in the wild to help protect them, and also they are a species that does breed well in captivity, so there is hope for the Amur tiger.
Down at Whipsnade, that was Amurs, and they had the 3 boys, didn't they, that had not long been born. There were 3 brothers.
Yes.
So yeah, I feel like conservation places they're doing quite well.
Yeah, they're busy cats. But they're fantastic, and again, a fantastic space. I think the good thing about this is you kind of have multiple viewing points at multiple levels up the enclosure. It's a huge enclosure and you're on multiple levels. So at some points you're ground level looking in at them, some level you're above them looking down on them. There's kind of all of these different viewpoints and you get a well-rounded tiger experience.
Yeah, and I feel like there were so many viewpoints as it was, and there's actually another one that's like higher up, but that was closed off because they were doing some work at the moment. So, but even without that kind of big top one up there that I remember from last time being in use, you still felt like you could get lots of good viewpoints from them. And it was great. Like we commented as we were walking from the macaques to the tigers, you're just walking along this wooden walkway and there's all the trees and bushes and things growing around you, and it just, even the paths and stuff, it feels very natural.
Mm-hmm.
Like you feel like you're in the middle of this sort of national park. It's like they've used the space, rather than going, we're buying this space to build a zoo and we're gonna clear it all out. Mm-hmm. It's like they've just really worked with the natural environment, and I really like it. It adds to the whole feel of the place.
Yes, I think so, definitely. Because it's like, yeah, there's a lot of, obviously when you go to a city zoo, you can tell almost a lot of the time that it's faking nature. Yeah. In that it's like, okay, we've planted some trees here that are from China, say, and we're putting Chinese animals around them, or we're planting so it feels very like, okay, I can see what you're doing. You're trying to create this atmosphere, this vibe of the country. It makes sense. Whereas this feels so authentic because it is authentic. Yeah. It's all kind of mountain plants, all kind of high altitude Scottish plants, which obviously are not 100% natural, what would be around the tigers or the macaques or whatever it is, but it's similar biome, similar kind of space and planting that you would imagine these animals in, and it really helps to immerse you in the whole experience. And I think that's a very good point, actually. It does also provide that kind of scary thing of like, there's just this, if you forget there's that pane of glass between you and it, because you are standing in forest and they are in forest, you kind of feel like it's right, like the tiger is right there. If it really wanted to, it could get me. And there was a couple of times where all of these people being like, one of the little ones coming up and like putting its hand on the glass because a kid wasn't paying attention. Yeah. And they're all like, oh, it's so look cute. At the tiger. Like, and I think I kind of ruined a couple people's day accidentally, because I was like, I don't know if that was a friendly maneuver. Like, I don't think that's what was going on. I thought I'd whispered that subtly to you, but there was a couple parents definitely gave me a look of like, don't you say that. I was like, well, it is a tiger. And your child is also very small. Yeah, like your small child is sitting in front of it with its back to it. The tiger's now jumping up. Mm-hmm. It's not being friendly. No, it's lunchtime. So yes, an interesting one. But I appreciated that. And I think the good thing about the Highland Wildlife Park is we're moved from a heavy hitter to a heavy hitter. Yeah. And then we're on to immediately another heavy hitter, which is the polar bears. So you kind of loop round, you've gone along this walkway past the macaques, and you come up past the tigers, and you kind of come to a fork in the road, where if you go left, you can turn up towards one of the polar bear habitats, or if you turn right, you can go up to the Arctic fox and kind of continue the main circle of the path. Yeah, like that main bit down the bottom. Yeah, so we decided we're going to go off on the little tangent and see the polar bear next, because for those of you who don't know, who aren't maybe following Scottish Zoo news, there is a baby polar bear, Brodie, at the Highland Wildlife Park just now, and he's up there with his mum Victoria. So we went up and we were very, very keen to see him, because the last sibling that was there, Hamish, was such a star. We needed to go and see his brother as well. So we veered off up this another boardwalk across, and this boardwalk is good because you kind of come out of the foresty area and you can see on either side big parts of the reserve that you can drive through. You end up in quite sort of open plain, don't you? Up that boardwalk. So for like, even if you didn't have a car maybe to drive around the reserve, you then get this excellent viewpoint of like when we were walking past the Przewalski's horse, we're right at the fence. Yeah. So you felt like you were getting all sorts of really close encounters with the animals that were in the reserve, even if you weren't in the reserve itself. So you continue up along this path, you see all the vicuna and all these other things, and then you come to the baby polar bear and his mother, who we visited 3 times throughout the day, and were not disappointed, because time 1 he was napping, he was asleep. Time 2 he was running around on land at the back. Yep. And then time 3 he was splashing around in his pool. Now, hard question, which was the cutest of the 3 actions? Oh, I don't know, because, I mean, when he was sleeping, he just looked so cute and precious, but then when he was running, he was, like, the word I would use is lolloping. I think the Highland Wildlife Park actually used that word in one of their recent social media posts to describe him running, and it really just this little fuzzy, chubby little creature trying to learn how to run, and it was just chaos, but I loved it. And then, swimming about in the pool. And I loved that because he was splashing about, playing with something, having a great time. And Mum was just sitting at the side. And it was like, this is what humans do. This is the mum sunbathing. Like, yeah, just get all your energy out. Do whatever you want. And him just having a grand old time. Yeah, but, she looked tired. She was like, She was like, is it nap time? Yeah, we need to nap again right now. But one thing I would say is to us, it's not a long walk. But because it is a sort of one-way thing, like you walk up to the polar bear and then you just come back the way you came,
like there was a volunteer or a worker up there kind of chatting about the polar bears whenever we went up. And she did kind of say, you know, he's more active at different times of the day, so I always tell people to come back if you can face that walk all the way up the path again. And we were kind of like, what's she talking about? It's fine. It's not a long walk. But I can see why if you had kids or mobility issues or an older person, it is maybe a bit of a walk out to see the polar bear, but 100% worth it. And do it a few times, because normally you will see different things at different times.
And if you get there are benches and stuff in that area, so if even if you have to camp out for a little while, like it's not that much of it. Like you could feasibly go and be like, we'll just have our lunch up there, we'll sit there for half an hour, 45 minutes and just see what happens. Because I think what she was saying as well was like, he'll go down for 20 minutes and then he's up again and running around for an hour, and then he'll go down. Like, so,
very much like a real toddler. Yes. Just chaos all the time.
Exactly. And I think I just love them so much. I think, like, cue dramatic music. I think the polar bears at the Highland Wildlife Park are the reason that, like, if I look back on my life, I finished my undergrad degree in politics and international relations, and I kind of was sitting thinking about what I wanted to do, and I went up and saw wee Hamish and Victoria, and that moment like stood on this hill in the middle of the Scottish Highlands with complete silence, looking around at just the snowy mountain-covered, like snowy mountains kind of covered in trees and nature, and everything was just like that perfect moment of clarity where you're like, this is where I want to be, and this is what I want to do. And then since I saw those polar bears, I've gone on and done my master's in conservation. I've worked at the zoo, I've worked at the Botanic Gardens in Edinburgh. I've kind of started this podcast, which probably might not have, without the polar bears, would not have happened. Like all of this stuff, all of these good things that have happened in my life have happened because of a decision that was made, stood looking at that polar bear. And still, like, when we went back this time, stood in that spot, I was like, this is a bit surreal and a bit weird. Yeah, to reflect
on where you were last time compared to now.
Yeah, so you can see why I was like, we can stop the dramatic music now, but you can see why I cued it. It was just like, it was just, a special, fantastic, wonderful moment for me personally to be back there and see all of this. And so I don't care if people think I'm biased. I love this. And again, because of the use of space, polar bears are the world's largest land carnivore. I think males can get to be about, I think it's 2.6 meters long. Big ones, the biggest they can get. So I think it's just this perfect space for these big huge animals, and it's just amazing, and I just love it. And I don't know,
I went in because you're saying maybe you'll be biased, but I went in not really. Last time I remember seeing the polar bears, but I think it was maybe like when she was pregnant or trying to get pregnant, so she was far away, so we only really saw a glimpse of her. And I remember being like, okay, like, they're nice, but whatever. Like, I wasn't really, probably a controversial opinion to throw out there, but I wasn't really getting the hype about the bears.
First the chimps, now this.
The first time round, right, and when wee Hamish was born, I was like, he's really cute, but I didn't feel like I had that personal connection. But going this time and actually seeing little Brody when he's a little cub, I was like, okay, now I understand the polar bear hype, because he was adorable. So nice to see him and mum interacting. And that space they've got is lovely, because you walk up and there's a little wooden sheltered bit you can stand in, and then there's a clear bit of fence you can stand at, and then if you come up the path, you're up the hill a little bit, and they've got all these benches, and just a really, I imagine on a windy day you'd get blown away, but a really nice tranquil spot. And I mean, by the last time we went up there, I think we just kind of ended up sat up there for a bit, like just, you were down there taking photos and I was sitting up at a bench at the back, and there was loads of people, just little couples and people on their own, just sitting about up there watching, and it was a really nice, I feel like it was a little thinking spot, you know? You could just go up there, watch the polar bears. And another thing as well, it's not really to do with the bears, but on that boardwalk up, obviously it is quite a big long space, and they'd put little signs on the way up with a little picture, and it was telling the story of like how a polar bear is born and then as it grows up and stuff, and that was a really cute little touch, because I guess if you were going up and you had kids, it's a big walk, so it's like you could tell them the story of the polar bear as you're walking up to it, and then you see the real thing. So that was a nice little touch.
Yes, I think that was, and it's nice to have that kind of story leading up to the massive conservation success, which is Brody, because I think it's Victoria, when Hamish was born, Victoria was the first polar bear to give birth in the UK. in something like 25 years.
Yeah.
It was a long time. So you had Victoria and Hamish, and then this is the second. She's on a roll now. So yeah, like it's leading up to this big, grand, important conservation inspiring moment, and I just like loved it. And yeah, I guess some more fun facts about polar bears just quickly before we move on. Their scientific name means sea bear because of how much time they spend in the water. While they may look white, their skin underneath their kind of fur is actually black, which is an interesting one. And they are able to detect prey almost a kilometre away and up to a metre under compacted snow.
Love that.
Amazing. And so yes, I think everyone knows the conservation threats about polar bears and the fact that the sea ice is melting and climate change. I think they are the perfect representatives of their species to be like, we need to do something now.
Yeah.
Because we are currently sitting recording this during a heat wave in Scotland with unprecedented temperatures. We really do need to start getting our act together. Let's phrase it politely, getting our act together for conservation and for climate change. And so it's a perfect example of that, is that these polar bears that we want to save so much. And so yes, looping round, before we get too emotional, we loop back, we come back down that path, and we join the main loop again of the park and the path, and we come to the Arctic fox, who I did not know is named, I'm going to credit this name to my sister, she is also called Sarah.
Is she?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know
Very
that.
sweet. So the Arctic fox, shall I try the scientific name? I've got it written down. We'll go with, oh gosh. The Arctic fox, Vulpes lagopus? Lago something.
Let's just stick with Sarah.
Yeah, let's go with Sarah. Is known for its pristine white winter coat. However, during the summer, the coat becomes dark on the upper side and a light grey or white underneath. And did you know, Jodie, that coat does not just change colour, it also becomes half the thickness, so that when it's summer months, it's a bit warmer, they do not get too warm. So
I love that. Aren't animals just so cool?
Yep.
Like, they're so much better at living than we are.
Honestly, and reading some more about it, it's like they can survive at temperatures up to minus 50 degrees Celsius because they also have woolly palms of paws, which helps. They can increase the blood flow to the foot pads, so it stops it from freezing. And they've got heavily kind of furred ears, and they've got kind of short noses to kind of make sure their faces and heads don't freeze either. So they're kind of perfectly compacted for that snowy, colder weather. And we actually walked past, and we were talking to Jasper, someone we know who works there, who was kind of taking us around and showing us different things. And he was talking about the fact that they'd been trying to kind of get her for a health check, and she was running and kind of kept darting down this little hole that she dug.
Yeah.
So we walked past and she was out. So he instantly radioed the vet team and was like, she's out. So they came, they covered the hole that she'd been darting into and managed to get a hold of her and get her for a health check, which I thought was quite a saga to watch unfold in front of us, because she was fast. She was quick on her feet. Like, it was like, go. And really appreciated that.
There's always something so comical about watching keepers running about with big nets, and I've seen it at the zoo as well. I saw 4 keepers one time trying to catch a Scottish wildcat kitten, which, as you can imagine, not an easy task, and definitely doesn't help when they've then got a crowd of people watching being like, whoa, what's going on? I can imagine it would get boring very quickly. But I just love it. It's always just such an interesting thing. It's all the drama. I know, there's just something about a person with a big net that's never not going to be funny.
Yeah, especially when it's clearly you're being outsmarted by a fox. You are being It's
you could play the Benny Hill music over the top of it, and it would be fitting. Watching them scrambling around after this animal that's much faster than them.
I started singing that, and then I was like, I don't know if we can get copyright for that, so we're not going to do Imagine the Benny Hill music. Don't play it. Well, you can play it aloud at home, but don't. I'm not going to be playing it here. So yes, Arctic fox. We then go up the hill further, and on the right hand side, as you head up this hill, on the left is the kind of main reserve, and on the right hand side you have the wolverines, looking down at the wolverines, which we kind of saw, I don't know, you had nipped away to the loo. I saw the wolverines.
I saw them right at the end of the day.
Okay.
So this was a big one. And actually, Highland Wildlife Park in general, I'm sure we'll talk about this at the end, but it's definitely one where if ever there's a place that you have to go around more than once, this is it. Because it's so big and so open and natural, big enclosures for them. It can be really tricky to spot them the first time round. So definitely go around more than once. And it's not a massive place, so I feel like it's not unreasonable to expect people to do that. But yeah, and like, because with them, you could see them from up the top, you could also see them down the bottom as well, so you have to try both places and be patient, and yeah. So I did see them at the end of the day. Some food had been put in for them, but from up the top, didn't see them, but you do get a lovely view because you're up the hill, so you get a nice view out over the surrounding scenery.
Yeah. I mean,
nice.
if you do see them, they are very entertaining because they are always running around and eating something and doing something, or chasing each other, and doing whatever. They are the largest member of the Mustelidae family, which includes weasels, stoats, badgers, and otters. So relatives of some pretty interesting things, but you can kind of see the link there, I think, with the wolverine, because they are that kind of like badgery, skunky almost shape. It's a nice, interesting aesthetic that they've got going. They're known for their big appetite, and their Latin name is gullo gullo gullo, which means glutton. So good vibes there. Like other mustelids, wolverines use their anal scent glands to mark their territory. Lovely. And they it's been thought that they have evolved to scavenge, but they'll also hunt sometimes as well. So interesting all-rounder. You've got smelly anal glands and hunting. What more could you ask for in an animal to watch? It's an interesting combination, and we love them for it. Moving from smelly anal glands up the hill to something that is much cuter than that. We've gone from fierce to, well, also fierce but also cute, which was the snow leopards. You keep walking up the hill and they had 2 snow leopards. They now have 5, I believe, because they had their adult female, Animesh, and then you've got Koshi, the male, and now 3 little ones who at time of recording are yet to be named, but the second batch of 3 I think they've had in not that long a time. So again, like the tigers, snow leopards really pumping them out, and there is nothing cuter than a baby snow leopard. When we went, we were going around with Jasper's, we said, who works there, and he was saying if you stand really quietly, you could sometimes hear them squeak because they were still so young. But now I think they're out and about, and there's posted videos on social media all the time of them just falling over each other and being just general menaces to their parents. And I love them. They're just the best. I think they're so cute.
And even though we didn't get to see the little ones while we were there, it's still exciting to know that we were there when they were there. Like they were on the other side of the wall.
It's like I can feel your energy coming through. And it's such a good space for them because you can see it from this. We've just reached the top of the hill and you can see it from the above. But then it also kind of, so you see this kind of smaller space, but then they have this whole cliff face on the other side.
Yeah, this is a really cool enclosure.
Yeah, so it's very natural. They can disappear completely if they want to. They can be very much on show if they want to. They can really just take advantage of this huge space, and it's so natural and it's so perfect. And it's, to me, honestly, no surprise that they keep pumping out kids, because there's no reason, I would say, for them not to feel safe and comfortable in that space. It's just fantastic. And it's actually got an extra bonus little thing that we'll talk about in just a second when it comes to the Markhor.
Yeah.
But for now, we'll leave it there and leave you wondering for just a second. Because I want to talk a little bit more before we move on to the Markhor about some more of the adaptations. We're talking about mountain animals a lot today, and these guys have actually similar kind of features to a lot and traits to a lot of the other animals that we've spoken about, to help kind of combat the colder weather affecting them. They've got that thick fur, they've got large paws, they've got an enlarged nasal cavity as well, actually, that helps to kind of warm up the cold air that goes in through the nose. And they also have a long, thick tail that's about 1 metre long, and it's used to balance. And when they can also use it to wrap around themselves when they're sleeping to keep nice and warm. So they kind of are perfectly developed for these higher altitude spaces as well.
Those tails.
Yeah. You just want to squeeze them.
I know, we were lucky when we were there that the male was right up in his enclosure, so he was right there, and we saw him wandering about. And I feel like I commented that at the time. I was like, I just love his tail. Love all of them, but that tail was just, so impressive.
So impressive.
What a handsome boy.
We do love a snow leopard. And let's get on to the interesting thing about their enclosure that relates to... So the markhor lives next door, and markhor are a type of big kind of goatee creature that kind of skip around on mountains in similar environments to the snow leopards. And in fact, out in the wild, snow leopards are known to hunt markhor. So they all kind of live right at the Highland Wildlife Park. They live right next door, which you'd think would be, why would they do this? That's an odd thing to do. But in fact, it's actually very, very clever, because the markhor is a fantastic creature on its own, but it also has a very important job at the park, which is sometimes they will lock the snow leopards into their indoor space, and there is a gate then that links the markhor space to the snow leopard area. They open that up, the markhor go through into the snow leopard enclosure, walk around, trim some of the plants, which would be difficult for the gardeners to access, pee, poo, do all sorts of markhor-y activities as they wander around.
Lots of scent enrichment.
Yes, they then get them back into the markhor space, close the gate, let the snow leopards out, and it's like this brilliant enrichment tool where you have then the natural prey of the snow leopard right next door. They can sense it in their space. They're like, they've been here. It kind of gets them thinking about hunting. It gets them searching for the animals. It gets them looking for kind of their natural prey species, and kind of keeps their minds like, what's this? What's it like?
Yeah,
it's really interesting. Yeah, and it's really, really clever. And I think a lot of zoos do things similar to this, where they'll kind of play sounds of animals. Like you'll have a lion exhibit, say, and they'll play sounds of a buffalo, and it gets lions stimulated. Whereas this, I think, goes that extra step, and they actually introduce, in as safe a way as possible, introduce each other into the habitats and allow them to kind of...
I love stuff like this. I love it when you have like, you mix the species, or just different ways to do enrichment that's not just to do with food.
Yes.
Like, because as much as it's cool, like, we've put some food in here and now they've got to play with this item to get the food out. But we've seen that. We've seen that now. Let's look at other things. So stuff like that I love. And like, it's kind of similar at my current work. A few times a year, they shear the sheep. Like we've got like Valley Blacknose sheep and things like that, and rather than just get rid of all the wool, they put the wool in the lion enclosure, and because that's a prey species for the lion, they play with the wool and they love it and they go mad. And it's really interesting to highlight to people things like scent enrichment and stuff like that. So it's not always just about food. There's other things that you can do to stimulate the animals and keep them active. So I feel like it's just a really good example.
Yes, and I think I've mentioned this a few times that at the end of the year I'd like to do a ReZOOs of like giving awards to various things. We've talked about which might be in the Win Best Guidebook. I think this is a early contender and maybe in the lead for my favourite habitat or like of the year. I think it's just brilliant, and that's saying a lot when we've visited like Chester and all of these other places that have incredible big spaces. This to me is such a creative, brilliant idea, and I just love it.
Yeah, it just makes sense. Like if you've got animals that can have that relationship, then use that. I like it. Exactly.
And of course let's give the markhor some love on their own as well. They are fascinating, beautiful things. I love just watching them scamper about on the rocks and things. They do face their own kind of threats in the wild. They are hunted. Habitat loss is a big problem for them, and there is the kind of domestic competition with domestic livestock as well affect the markhor, and affect a lot of, I think, large herbivorous species out in the wild. And so there's some really interesting conservation projects going on to help preserve the species in their natural habitat because of these threats. There is actually less than, I think, 2,500, I might have said that already, 2,500 left in the wild. And so what they're doing is, throughout much of its range, it's now legally protected. And one of the most successful conservation programs, which is actually highlighted on the Highland Wildlife Park website, is a trophy hunting program in Pakistan. Now that's a very kind of hot topic, whether trophy hunting should be allowed or not allowed or whatever it is. But if these animals are going to be killed by local communities, or they're going to come into conflict with local communities, it's an interesting one. I don't know. I'm not going to take a side. It's not going to become a larger discussion today. I would like to have the larger discussion, but not right now. So it's a trophy hunting program where local communities are encouraged to conserve the markhor through economic incentives, where a large percentage of the money generated by a very, very small and kind of monitored allowance, I suppose, of trophy hunts, like goes towards the community. So if there's a small number of these hunts, very sustainable number, then the local communities, instead of being plunged into kind of poverty where you kind of remove the trophy hunting entirely, they then get that little bit of money to kind of help prevent poverty in the areas. And yeah, it kind of helps to then benefit local communities and the Markhor. And it does use trophy hunting, which is controversial, I know, but it's still an interesting thought process. And it's actually been so successful that proposals have been made for this to be implemented in other parts of the Markhor's range. So, yes. So an interesting one. Yes. Yeah. With many caveats, of course, where I'm like, we're not having the trophy hunting debate today, because that would be, these podcasts are already always too long. So, an interesting one, nonetheless. And yeah, really, really interesting that it's kind of one of these species. Because I know this happens a lot in Africa with different species of antelope and different animals trophy hunting. And I'd never heard about it anywhere else. So it's interesting to hear a similar program in Pakistan. And yes, next to the Markhor is, of course, Polar Bears Part 2, the return. We've got the two male polar bears, of course, are kept separate from the female and the baby, just to prevent conflict of any kind. So we have Walker and Arctos are here. And what were your impressions of them, Jodi?
Oh, they're just so impressive. Like, when you see them up close, and you see Victoria and Brody, and they're impressive enough, and then you go and see the males, and they're just huge. And they've got huge, big space as well. We were sort of looking from the top of the hill. There's a few little viewing platforms that you can go down to that have been built.
Yeah.
When you're going through the drive-through, you can also see them on the other side as well. So the first time we were walking down, we could not see them, and we were like, these are two massive white bears in a green enclosure. How can we not even spot them? But it's because they were like right down the bottom at the fence where the drive-through is.
Yeah.
So yes, bear in mind, they've got a big enclosure. It's fantastic. Might make it tricky to find them, but they will be in there somewhere. So make use of all the viewing points.
Yes.
But yeah, just chunky boys we love.
Yeah, and I love this enclosure because it really helps to demonstrate the progression of zoos throughout time. In that a very, very long time ago, the Royal Zoological Society of Scotland had polar bears at Edinburgh Zoo. Yeah. And as a reference point now, when this concept of zoos and everything first came about, the space that the polar bears had in Edinburgh was the same size as the pool that they have now in this new enclosure. So it just goes to show the huge expansion of polar bear habitats, of the development of zoos as a concept, and the fact that these things are constantly growing and changing. And so this particular space is a really interesting one for that. I really, really enjoy it. Really enjoyed it for that. But we've talked a lot about polar bears already, so we'll not linger too long. Now, going down the hill, we had the Eurasian eagle owl. Any thoughts?
I mean, I do love an owl. I really do. Birds of prey, love an owl. I feel like if it was, when people ask me like, what would your animal be if you were any animal, I always say a bird of prey, and I'm inclined to say an owl.
Interesting.
So I feel like I have a spiritual connection with the owls. But did I have lots to say about this guy in particular? No. But I appreciated the presence.
Yeah, well, since we're on me embarrassing myself with scientific names kick today, I'm going to put in and tell you that the Eurasian eagle owl's scientific name is Boobo Boobo. Boobo
good for him.
Which I love. It's one of the largest owls in the world, with a wingspan of nearly 2 meters, and these birds can weigh anywhere between 1.5 kilograms to 4 kilograms. So, big guys. Pretty interesting. I also don't have much to say, but again, a good, interesting space. You continue down the hill further, so you come past the eagle owls. On the left, I think there's more Markhor. I think they keep the males and females
the Markhor were really
separate.
Dotted about, weren't they?
Yeah.
There was plenty of opportunity to see the Markhor.
Yep. And you come down further, and then you see the northern lynx, who again, when we're talking scientific name, has possibly my favourite scientific name that we've come to so far, which is the northern lynx, Lynx.
Oh, so good, they named it 3 times.
Exactly, and it's a subspecies of the Eurasian lynx, which scientific name? Lynx.
Ah, of course.
So the lynx, it's the lynx is a subspecies of lynx.
Okay.
Just so we're clear on that for everyone.
Yeah.
Lynx becomes lynx, the northern lynx. There you go. How many times can you say lynx in a sentence?
I know.
So yes, they have the lynx. Again, a bit like Whipsnade, we were not lucky enough to spot the lynx on this day.
I think this was the only thing we didn't manage to see by the end of the day.
I think Jasper did say to us there was like, if you see there's something twitching under that thing,
Yeah.
there is a lynx under there, and we were like, yes, but we weren't getting a clear view.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we can count it, but we did see.
It's a big sort of leafy green enclosure. When
Yeah.
you think about the size of a lynx, you know, it's going to be tricky. They are notoriously tricky to spot.
Yes, exactly. And but yeah, still love them. I learned today they can jump up to 2 meters in the air at birds when they want to catch them. So they're powerful little things, even if they are hard to spot and disappear very often. They are interesting, wonderful things. So yeah, and we can't really linger on this too long either. We're kind of, all of a sudden we're like boom, 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 boom. We spent so long on everything at the start, and then we're like, let's get going.
But you're getting to the part of the map where everything is quite close together, so
Yes,
it's quite
that's
easy
true.
to just go along and like bam, 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 see everything all in a row.
Fair. And yes, we then come to 2 more heavy hitters, so we've got a rush to them, which is you come down, you've kind of completed this almost main loop of the park now, which starts with the macaques, tigers, polar bears, snow leopards, all that stuff.
Yeah, you go like up and round the hill and back down.
And yes, you're back kind of at the main car park where you started. And there's a couple little extra bits that you can walk out to as well. One of which is Wolf Wood, which I thought was fantastic. So you walk around and you immerse yourself in this wooded area filled with pine trees, filled also with wolves in one enclosure and reindeer in another. And it's just fantastic. They are, I think, the European wolf, which used to be found through a lot of the Northern Hemisphere, including Scotland. Not anymore. There are debates about bringing it back, I believe, but not at the moment. They are the world's largest living canid. Their coat is generally grey and black, with kind of lighter underparts. And yeah, the different populations will have different colours. So interesting. They also look a lot like domestic dogs, but the way you can tell them apart is they have longer legs, larger feet, a narrower chest, and a straight tail, apparently. So yes, those were the wolves, and I love them. And I think my favourite thing any of them did was while someone was taking a photo right next to the glass, one of them leapt probably about a metre in the air and slapped its paws on the glass, and that poor woman got a bit of a fright, to put it politely. And yeah, I just love them. And what did you think of the wolves?
I like this. I hadn't seen this area of the park before, because the one time I'd been there before, I think the female had just had some babies, or was going to, or something like that, so they'd closed Wolfwood to give her peace and quiet. So I hadn't
Selfish.
seen it. Ridiculous. So yes, it was, and I really loved this bit because it did just feel like you were in the middle of the woods. And the whole park has a very natural feel, as we've discussed. But this bit, you just feel like you're kind of out in the middle of the trees. And same with the bit which we'll come on to that had like the bit where the wildcats were and the red squirrels and stuff. Like, it's really nice that you've got the sort of main bit that feels maybe a bit more sort of curated, and then you've got this bit over here that just really feels like you're wandering through the woods and these animals are here, and I loved it. Yeah,
so easy to forget the fences are even there. Like, it's just fantastic.
And I was amazed by how much they really are just like dogs, because there was keepers had just arrived, presumably to go and feed them or do something, as they were like walking down towards their enclosure. They were all of them were up at the fence and like jostling for position and making noises, and just like really excited dogs about to get fed or go on a walk.
Yeah, I think so.
Loved that.
Fantastic. I loved it. Just like, it's so funny to watch them. Just charming little things.
The way they all like run about with each other as well, like their little social structure, is really interesting to see them going about.
Because it is a big group as well. Like, it's fantastic. I like, it's interesting to see. And remember when they were running around and seeing them like leaping over the logs and stuff was frightening, but also really, like, you could see, like, if a prey species was being chased by them down or whatever it was, you can see how they would stand very little chance, because it was like whatever they were leaping over logs and rocks and all sorts of stuff, like they were nothing. So and they didn't even seem to slow them down.
No.
So it was just fantastic.
I feel like we went from the really enthusiastic, energetic animals over here to like, you just pan the camera over to this side and the most chill reindeers in the world.
Oh yes, the fantastic. I love them so much. They are, reindeer. Thank you for introducing them, Jodi. We have the reindeer next door. They live on grassy plains of the Arctic and subarctic, as well as in coniferous forests. So
lovely.
Conifers. Their large flat hooves are like snowshoes, so it stops them from kind of sinking immediately into snow. And they have hair between their toes, which stops them from getting all clogged up. So you know how sometimes when you walk in boots or something in the winter and the grips get kind of filled with snow?
Yeah.
They have hair in between their grips, basically, to stop them from filling with snow, which is very clever. During the autumn, though, those hooves also change. They harden and they develop sharp edges, which they use for breaking through snow and ice to find food. And so they're another species that, like all the other ones here, have perfectly adapted to these colder environments. They're the only deer species where both girls and boys will grow their antlers. And the reindeer can see in ultraviolet light, which helps them find food during the winter.
Oh,
so
I
they
didn't
are
know that.
Superheroes.
Yeah.
Bizarre things, but
there is just
so
something
charming.
quite magical about a reindeer. You can see why they're the Christmas deer.
Yes.
Because they really are quite magical, just to sit and watch them. I think we talked about this in the Whipsnade review as well. But there's just something about a reindeer. Mesmerising.
Until they make that really weird noise that they sometimes make, and you're like, oh, okay, you've kind of lost a couple cute points there.
Ruined the magic there a little bit.
But still, like, yeah.
But yeah, I just liked the contrast in this area of the really energetic wolves and then the really chilled out reindeers. I just think they would just work really nicely together out there.
And I think it was a nice area because you have this wolfwood area, which is about kind of the wolves and the reindeer, but also they had those bird feeders and squirrel feeders
like
and stuff to really encourage like natural, because you're in the middle of a national park, it's important to encourage natural animals as well. So yeah, it was really, really interesting to kind of get that element into it as well, which I really, really liked as well. Now, moving on again, you come out of Wolfwood, and there's another loop off the car park which takes you down to see the kind of wildcats and the Himalayan monal, and as well as that you kind of pass the Mishmi Takin. So we'll start with the Himalayan monal. If anyone remembers, I can't remember if I mentioned this, I'm pretty sure I did in the Chester ReZOO. They had a Himalayan monal and I felt instantly in love because they've got that like rainbow coloured feathers.
I'm sure you talked about this because you were saying how it's got the rainbow feathers and it's like...
amazing.
Yeah.
I just love them.
I'm sure you did.
So they now have them at the Highland Wildlife Park, and I think they were a new addition since last time I'd been. And there's a girl and a boy, so you've got one of them with the bright coloured feathers, one without. And they just are fantastic. I remember when I was younger, they used to have things like capercaillies and different birds like that at the Highland Wildlife Park, and they seem now to have developed into this. I think they're from Nepal. I think they might actually be the national animal of Nepal, national bird of Nepal, I think. So a really interesting thing to see. So you're kind of highlighting another species that lives in these mountainous countries and mountainous regions, but one, again, maybe like the macaques, which is unexpected, because again, don't think people think of these colourful bright birds as living in mountains. They think of them again like jungly type things. So it was a really nice thing to see there. I don't know if you have much to say about them, but
no, I mean the enclosure was quite cool, and that to see them, it was like wooden boards like making up the wall, and then there was just little holes in the wall that you look through, which is good because I guess it gives the birds a lot of privacy. It's not just like a fence where they can see the people all the time. So they can't really see the people, but the people can see them, so maybe makes it a bit more chilled out for them, which I appreciated. Yes,
I like that. And I also liked their neighbours, who were the Wildcats. Now, the Wildcats is a very long discussion, I think.
I know, this is a whole pod in itself.
Let's keep it brief.
There weren't many there when we went.
Because. So there are two areas for wildcats in the park. There's this public viewing area, and then they also have the Saving Wildcats area, which is a conservation project which is being led by the RZSS with the collaboration of other groups. I think it's the Nature Scot, Forestry and Land Scotland, Cairngorms National Park Authority, Noordenzaak, and Junta do Andalusia, I think.
We'll go with that.
I think it's a J, but I think it would be a So I very badly failed Spanish. No, scraped a pass in Spanish in university. So my pronunciation may not be 100% correct, but so it's a collaboration between all these organisations that are looking to try and save the wildcat. And what they're doing is they've built this whole breeding centre for wildcats in Scotland, at the Highland Wildlife Park. They're breeding them, they're trying to release them into the wild, because wildcat populations in Scotland are under serious threat. They're known as the Highland Tiger. They're an iconic, important species, yet because of breeding with domestic cats and conflict and all of these things, their numbers are seriously decreasing. And so Highland Wildlife Park is really spearheading this initiative to get some more. And this year I think they've had, I don't know, it seems like hundreds of kittens that will hopefully soon be able to be released out into the wild to kind of help support the population. I think that's fantastic. But we didn't get to see those ones. They also have public viewing cats, and we saw one of those sitting around in his area, and yeah, they are very charismatic things.
Yeah, I like this area because I feel like there was about 5 different enclosures for them.
Yeah.
Most of them were empty and had signs on it explaining this wildcat's going up to the centre or whatever.
Yeah.
But it would have been really an impressive space to see when it is in full use with a wildcat in each one, and they had little tunnels that go over your head that connect up all the enclosures, so would be really cool to see it filled, but obviously they're off doing more important things at the moment, being part of this conservation effort, which, but again, really nice space, and it feels very natural because you're just in the big with the big canopy of trees up above your head, and nice chilled space, so
exactly.
Yes, nice to see the ones that we did see.
Yes, I think it was nice to see them. We've seen them in other places as well, but it just feels special when you know there's this project going on behind the scenes as well. Actually, I think while we're talking about conservation projects that are going on at the Highland Wildlife Park, something I hadn't noted down, but I'd like to mention, similarly, they have the Pine Hoverfly Project, which is another behind the scenes kind of initiative where they are breeding and releasing pine hoverflies, which are an exceptionally critically endangered species of hoverfly that are found in the Highlands. And so that is another project which is really worth you going and looking into if you're listening, because it's working with these species that don't usually get the conservation spotlight shone on them. People think about things like tigers and polar bears, and these are all very important conservation initiatives, but also the little guys like the wildcats and the hoverflies need that kind of support as well. And I think they also said they're now going to be working on different species of other smaller unusual things, which I can't remember if this was said to me because it was staff or if it was said to me because, so I'm not going to tell you what it was in case I'm not allowed to say it, but they're working on other projects to hopefully support other species.
Going on. You know what I really like about Highland Wildlife Park is that, yes, okay, maybe it's smaller in terms of the number of species they hold there or whatever, but for maybe being a smaller collection, they really pack a punch with the conservation stuff that they're doing.
Yeah.
Like, they are doing so much. And yes, they've got the big hitters like the polar bears and the tigers, lots of snow leopards, lots of cubs going on that are helping conservation efforts, but all this stuff going on behind the scenes and especially sort of built projects and facilities, and it's so impressive. And I feel like, you really need to not just go and look at what you can see, you need to learn about what's going on behind the scenes as well, and the website and things are really good for that.
Exactly. So yes, go and do that if you haven't already.
Yes.
Listeners, I'll put links to the website and everything down in the description of the episode so you can click and see whatever they're working on at the time. I'm sure will be impressive. Now, moving on from kind of the wildcats, you come back out and you are faced with possibly the strangest looking animal thus far, which is the Mishmi Takin, who is like a goatee, cowy...
It's a mix of about 4 different animals.
Yes. They're one of the largest goat antelopes and were thought to be related to the musk ox of North America and Greenland, but genetic testing shows that they are most closely related to sheep, which consequently leads on to a really interesting story. They are actually fans of Greek mythology. I keep bringing it up, and I will continue to keep bringing it up on the podcast. Would probably like to know that the Mishmi Takin is actually thought to be the origin of the Golden Fleece, of course, which Jason went all the way across the Mediterranean, various seas, to try and find the Golden Fleece to bring back to win, whose hand was it in marriage? Something. He was very determined to get this, and then it all went horribly wrong. There was monsters, there was battles, there was in Greek mythology. Yeah, so he goes and he tries to go and get the Golden Fleece, and this is the animal which the Golden Fleece is said to come from, because they do have that golden coloration, that beautiful golden, fleece, I suppose. So yes, love it. They might be strange looking, but like the other animals, they have a number of features which help them survive in their mountain home. They have their kind of strange face, which has large sinuses where the air is warmed up, a bit like the snow leopards, actually. So you can see, actually, funny how evolution pushes different animals that are completely different to have similar features. So interesting that they also have that. And it stops heat loss from breathing as well. They do not have... This is an interesting one, which they don't have skin glands, but their body secretes an oily, strong-smelling substance which covers their coat to protect it from moisture and for rain. So they kind of generate their own waterproofs, which is important for the Highlands. Anyone who's visited the Scottish Highlands knows how important that is.
Oh, yes.
So they have that, which is interesting because other animals do it for sun cream, like hippos will secrete their sun cream. Mm-hmm. It's interesting, there's like on the flip side of that, there's something that generates it for rain cover. And then they have little horns that are ridged at the base and can reach up to 64 centimetres, which... pretty big horns for a little thing. So yeah, really interesting, amazing animals, which again, big fan of. Do you have any thoughts?
No, I was just speechless by this weird animal, and I continue to be so.
Yes, that's fair. I feel like you started strong, but we're now reaching the stage where I can see this is the first long form conversation you've had for a few days because of COVID, and I can see the light draining from your eyes. But it's okay, because
there's an animal we haven't talked about yet that I know I'm going to pick up at. So.
Yes, well, I think we're coming immediately onto it because the last section that you come to, kind of as you're walking around on foot, if you do the route that we did, of course, are the red pandas and the Eurasian cranes. Now, I'll quickly cover the Eurasian crane. They're beautiful big birds. Go and have a look at them. They're amazing. Jodi, talk about red pandas.
Yes, so there are 2 red pandas there, who, at the time of recording, I think they're still there, but they are moving to Edinburgh shortly for a little holiday because Highland Wildlife Park are doing so much amazing conservation stuff. They're building new facilities, and the red panda's current habitat is going to get a bit caught up in that. So they're going for a wee holiday while their new places get built. Yeah. But yes, love it. It's a very different enclosure compared to, say, Edinburgh, which has got red pandas way up high in the trees. I feel like it's a bit of maybe an older part of the park, and you have to sort of duck as you're walking under it, and there's sort of stone walls around it, but I feel like you're very close to them, and you got some fantastic pictures when we were there, because one popped its head out just at the right angle. Cute. And there was like a bunch of kids trying to get in to see it, and you were not moving with your camera, which I appreciated.
When this is always the thing where people are like, the kids want to see. I'm like, yes, the kids do need to see, but also I would like to see. So it's this weird. I did move aside eventually, but I had to get my pictures first. I was like, this is a unique moment for pictures. Then you can have a look.
Because this was a thing, I never ever knew what the red pandas were called there, and I asked Jasper, and I think he said they're called Kitty.
Yeah.
And I want to say something like Kevin, but I don't know if it was Kevin.
I don't know if it is. No. You keep talking about red pandas
it's
and your
somewhere.
Love for them.
It'll be on their social media somewhere.
Yeah, you keep looking. Right.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we have nothing new to say about red pandas because we've covered every conservation thing that we can with them in every review where they've ever come up, because I always have to talk about them. But yeah, I was a big fan.
Keep talking. I haven't found
fan.
a thing yet.
Oh, okay. What else could we say about them? Small, cute, red.
It was
adorable.
Kevin.
It was Kevin. Yes, love it. Here's a point just to raise, because when you said earlier, about the Arctic fox being called Sarah, I just love it when animals have got really normal names, like Kevin or Sarah, or like, I don't know, imagine a tiger called Steve. Like, I love stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I appreciated that.
It's a bit silly,
Kevin.
but also great.
It just makes them even cuter somehow. I just love it. So yeah, there we go. Loved that. I feel like that was we saved the best till last for me. We needed that to keep me going, keep the energy levels up, to know that there was a bright red beacon on the horizon. Yes. It's going to get to go and see the red pandas. But yeah. And then obviously we did a few more loops. So that wasn't the last thing we saw.
No.
But I feel like that's us hit everything on the map now.
On the map, yes, exactly. And we'll come to bonus stuff in a little second. But before we get to kind of talking about lunch was slotted in somewhere, and like all the gift shop visits and stuff were slotted in various places, we'll talk to them in the bonus stuff section, which I still need to think of a better name for, but bonus stuff it shall be for now. Because we did also do the drive-through. So while we're talking about the animals, let's talk a bit about that.
Okay. Because we did that last. We did that on the way out.
Yes, so we had, and I think it was a good thing to finish up with, because you've kind of spent all day on your feet. It's nice to sit down and see some of the animals from the comfort of your vehicle. And the animals that they have in the drive-thru are Przewalski's horse, bison, vicuna, several species of deer. There's also camels and yaks that you pass. Yes, so all sorts of stuff going on in there. Now, we're not going to the good thing about this, we can't give you an order that you're going to run into these things because a lot of them just wander about. But do you have any thoughts from the drive-through about any of the particular species that you'd like to mention?
I quite liked the camels. They were some funky looking camels. They seem to be in the middle of a bit of a shedding season going on, which always leaves camels looking a bit bizarre. But they were right up at the cars. They didn't seem fazed. I feel like since they have camels now at my current job, and I feel like I've developed more of an appreciation for camels since then. I've learned things I didn't know about camels. So yes, it was nice to see them. So one fact I always throw at people is that I ask them, what's in a camel's hump? And everybody thinks water. Seems to be. I remember being told when I was young that they had water in their humps, but in fact, it's a fat reserve. And then they can break it down and convert it to water. And you know how sometimes you'll see camels, sometimes their humps look a bit floppy. And that just means that obviously they've had to break down that fat to give them some water or energy. So maybe that would be an indicator to you that that particular camel hasn't been in an area that's had a ready water supply for a while.
Interesting.
Which I love. Yeah, I feel like they're the more I learn about camels, they are so interesting, and it's not an animal that I ever would have bothered to learn about before. So I'm advocating for the camels today. Go and learn about them because they're so cool. Yeah,
shout out to Lauren who visited London Zoo with us and fell in love with camels and you thought it was strange, but now we've really come round. I'm
also have a fact about camels, and I can't remember it completely, but it's something like they're the only mammal that can drink salt water and not have any ill effects from it. Something like that. Go and look it up.
Okay.
You can learn.
Research.
Do
homework
this.
For you
do
listeners.
Your homework, readers, listeners. Go and read up about camels, and because they're cool and they need more appreciation.
Yeah, I think so. And I think all the animals in this reserve actually do need more appreciation. Because I feel like people like deer think, oh, it's kids. But deer are really interesting. They're very beautiful. The vacuna especially, they're funky looking llamas that are just beautiful. They're like blondie llamas. They're very cute things.
Pretty little things.
The bison, again, big, chunky, scary kind of things to
bit
drive.
Intimidating.
When we're in a tiny little car driving past, you're kind of like, oh no. If it really wanted to, it could really do some damage to my vehicle. But they're very chill. They're very interesting. I think they also kind of give a good example of conservation work and the importance of zoos, because I looked up on the website earlier today. Glen Rosa, one of the females born in 2012, was transported to Romania in 2014, along with 5 other females from UK and Irish zoos as part of a reintroduction programme for bison. So they are doing important work out in the wild as well. So you've kind of got these kind of projects, not just within the UK, I suppose, with the hoverflies and the wildcats. You've also then got the important projects with things that are a bit further away as well. So, yeah, really, really interesting stuff going on there.
Should also mention the horses, because we love...
We do love Przewalskis.
And we saw some licking a car. Which...
That was so funny. Because the poor people in the car were just like, how do we deal with this? But the more that we thought about it, when I came back and my dad was like, well, they like salt. Horses like salt licks. So if the car had been somewhere and over time picked up salt on the bonnet, if it had been near water that was salty, or seaside or something, and they could sense it, they would lick the bonnet for the salt. And I was like, I don't know if that's why they were doing it, but good theory. Good theory.
I just love those horses. Can do no wrong in my eyes. I love them.
Yeah,
I just love them.
And I think we've talked about them in every episode.
We have, but I just will always be like, I love them. I have nothing interesting to say about them. They're just fantastic.
Yep, fantastic things. And speaking of fantastic things, that brings us to the end. And I think the reason we can transition using that is because everything we've seen has been fantastic. But, of course, as always, we do have some bonus stuff. We've got, written down in front of me, I've got gift shop, cafe, and future developments. So
I also have a bonus thing to throw in.
Do you want to start with it?
Speaking of fantastic, shout out to the staff, because I was thinking about this, and it was one thing that came up was that every member of staff we spoke to was just so lovely.
Yeah.
And that goes from the person at the ticket desk. They had stewards sort of helping with traffic, both at the start and then at the end of the reserves. The people in the gift shop, we spoke to a few of them and they were very helpful. We spoke to even people in the cafe. We spoke to them a few times because we were in the cafe a few times. And when you said you worked at Edinburgh, they actually stopped and had a chat and asked questions about Edinburgh. And I just really appreciated that. I feel like staff are always nice in these places because you have to be.
Yeah.
But special shout out to this team up at Highland Wildlife Park because everyone just was really friendly and like relaxed and approachable, and just felt like they were there to have a chat with you, which I always appreciate.
Yeah, it was really, really nice. A big. Yeah, just the energy was good. Like, the vibes were immaculate from them. I just loved it. Loved it. They were all so kind and welcoming, and everyone could answer every question you threw at them. Yeah. So good. Yeah.
Sometimes I think when you have that sort of slightly smaller team, it does feel a bit more like that. Like, it's a little bit more relaxed, a bit more friendly, because it's more like people are just having a wee chat with you rather than feeling like, oh, we've got to put our customer service face on.
Yeah.
Although the customer service was excellent and professional and whatnot, but I appreciate that slightly more personal feel.
Yes.
And I feel like you got that up there. It was nice.
Excellent. Yes.
I enjoyed.
And then in terms of cafe, while we kind of touched on the staff, the food was also pretty good, pretty excellent. There was a good selection of stuff. Gift shop, similarly, good selection of stuff. I don't know what else I could add there. I appreciated the food. We just got sandwiches and stuff for lunch.
Yeah,
very
it's
simple, effective.
kind of small.
Yeah.
So do be aware of that. On a busy day, there's not a lot of seating areas, but there's plenty of picnic benches and stuff all around the park. So,
yeah. So
maybe just something
take a picnic,
to be aware
maybe.
Of. Yeah, on a nice day, it'd be a nice spot to have a picnic.
Yeah, that's a good one. And there's play areas around that kind of cafe area as well. So if you've got the kids, you can send them off to run about, burn off some energy while you sit and have a nice relaxed little lunchtime, which was good. And yeah, same with the gift shop. It had such a good selection of stuff for all ages, arty things, stuffed toys, the usual kind of magnets, water bottles, all sorts of just stuff. T-shirts, I think they had, like all sorts of really nice, good quality stuff. So I, again, didn't have any complaints about the gift shop.
No, don't think we bought anything, but
no, when you work for the organisation, I sometimes have that bias of like, people are going to think I'm weird if I have too much RZSS merchandise, so I have to just limit myself to the correct amount. What
I did appreciate though is they had some stuff the same as the Edinburgh gift shop, but they also had some things that I hadn't seen down there.
Yeah,
which I like because it
variety.
Yes,
it's a spice of life.
I appreciated that.
Yes, exactly. And then the last thing to mention is all of these things are situated in their current kind of centre, their kind of main welcoming building, but they are, I think, knocking that down, either that or building next to it a brand new discovery centre, new buildings around the park, which will increase the way that they can engage with the public. They'll increase the volume of visitors that they can get through in terms of like engagement, because I think they want to hire more staff. They are just kind of increasing and then really investing in themselves to make the Highland Wildlife Park a real standout beacon of conservation in the Highlands. And I think that's such a good, strong idea.
Yeah, it's really exciting, isn't it?
Yes, I think so. And I think it's just fantastic. And they also do, that's just reminded me, like, not only are they investing in physical things, they're investing their time and resources in people as well. And they run groups like the Wildlife Wombles, who I was talking to Jasper about. We've interviewed Jasper about them on the podcast, which is a group of young people with disabilities who get to come into the park. They get to kind of do some of the keeper type jobs. They get to interact with nature. They get to kind of form connections with make friends. Like, it's a really good, strong environment to be in. So they're investing in the conservation side in terms of a new building, and also in the people side in terms of groups like the Wombles, which I really love. Really, really love. Yeah. So I don't know. Did you have anything to add about the future developments? I don't know.
Don't think so. It's just exciting, and it's nice that they've got, because of the location, they've really got the space to be able to do stuff like that, and it's just, I just love it. Just so exciting that they're going to be expanding, and it's just stuff happening.
Yep.
We're going to have to go back.
Yep. And happily will.
Yes.
Because of course, our 2 stars and a wish. Now, this is going to be a tricky one for me. As I said at the start, I do work for the organisation, but I will still offer a piece of criticism if I can find it, because I think you can only get better as an organisation if you're reflective on yourself and your own work. So 2 stars first of all. What are your 2 stars, Jodi?
Ooh.
Or maybe 1. We'll take it in turns. What's your first one?
There was so much about this place that I really loved. I mean, I want to say the polar bear, but I feel like that's too obvious.
Why not?
But yeah, I just love that. Really like the space as well. That I'm like thinking specifically about where Victoria and Brodie were. But yeah, just really like that space that you could go and sit up there, and it's such a chill little space to go and sit and see a baby polar bear. So who's not going to love that and make it their star, you know? He was the star.
Yeah, and I think moving on from that, there's a lot of stars because I've now realised how many babies we've talked about of 3 of the most charismatic animals in the park.
Oh, they're all stars.
They're all stars, and to me, my star, if you're doing polar bear, I'll do the first one, of course, are Amur Tigers. Mm-hmm. I think they are incredible, fantastic, amazing, beautiful. Just the best time to watch them. So to me, the Amur Tiger and the space is my first star. Second star, Jodi.
Second star. I kind of already mentioned it, but I would just say, rather than an animal, like the way that they've made the use of their natural space and that it does feel very natural. Because thinking about that enclosure where Victoria and Brody were, all at the back of it, it's just loads of trees that feel like they're just sort of naturally there. Yeah. So again, it doesn't feel like, oh, we've cut out this space and made it a zoo. It feels like, no, it just, we're in the middle of the Cairngorms and it just so happens we've put some animals there. Like it really just feels like they work with nature and it all flows in together, and it just makes for, and like when you're sitting up there, yes, you're looking at the polar bears, but when you turn around, you can just see mountains, you know, like it's just such a beautiful natural space, and it's really nice that, and yes, in highlighting all these animals, they're doing something good, but they're kind of highlighting a bit of a natural Scottish environment as well. Yeah. And yeah, just appreciate. Just love it. It really adds to the whole enjoyment of the day, I think. Mm.
I think I'll take that, and I'm going to just put a spin on it as well of like, this will be my second star as well, just because how good it is. And I would say things like the snow leopard exhibit, where they're creative in use of space and embedding, they're creative not just in embedding the animals in the natural environment of Scotland, they're creative in how they place those animals around the space, how they use, like, it's not just about the space and highlighting the nature, it's about putting animals in correct places as well. Like the wolves in the wood feels correct, it's the correct place for them to be. Like the markhor and the snow leopards, they are correctly placed, and those exhibits are just fantastically linked. Like you go into some zoos and you walk around and you think, why am I looking at like these two animals next to each other? This just doesn't make any sense. Like, why is there an ostrich next to, like, I don't know, something from like South America? Like there's no click. There's no, like, they just haven't thought it through. Whereas
sometimes it feels like, oh, a certain animal's in this space, but you could put 10 other animals in this space because it's just a generic space. Whereas this felt like these spaces fit with this animal.
Yes, that's exactly. So that would also be my second star. Now, we've been very overwhelmingly positive, but a little bit of self-criticism can go a long way. What would be your wish?
My wish? I don't know. I just wish I lived closer. It's hard because there's not much I didn't like about it. Maybe one thing that I would like, but even as I'm saying it, I'm thinking of a comeback to it. Maybe it would be good, because you've got these amazing natural spaces, it can be quite tricky to spot things. So, for example, the lynx, it would be good to have some kind of signage. You could say this about every zoo, but some kind of signage with like top tips for how to spot the animal in that space.
Almost like they had in the Whipsnade guidebook. Yeah. Where they had the keeper tips.
Yes, something like, because obviously like when we were looking at the lynx, we were with Jasper at the time, and he said, oh, this is an animal that you'll quite often find down low underneath something. So when you've spoken to a keeper, you get that inside knowledge. But if you're just there as a visitor, you'd have no idea really where to look. And if it's something quite elusive especially, then it would be good to have a little sign with like top tips on where to look for them. But then I'm thinking in my head, well, that's what maybe staff are there for. So like you should go and speak to the staff or go to the talks or whatever and engage with the whole experience, and that's how you learn those top tips. So I don't know, but yeah, maybe that would be maybe a good little addition. Like it's not a wish because I can survive without it, but also it would be good.
An extra little thing, especially I guess with when you've got things like snow leopards, tigers, like all these animals which can be elusive. It's a perfect thing to chuck in and say, let's tweak this slightly and just make it. I think that makes sense. I guess similarly, I wish it wasn't so far away from me. I wish I lived closer. I wish that. Now, I suppose I'm a big fan of a guidebook. So I do kind of wish there was some kind of guidebook. Because I remember when I was younger, and this is such a nerdy thing about me, when I was like really, really young when we would go, they used to have guidebooks and maps and stuff, and I would like cut out all the animals and stuff and like make my own guidebooky type thing. I'm
Love
such
that.
a nerd. Where I would like write my favourite facts in a like notebook about the animals using the things from like leaflets and stuff that I found around the park. So I think the value of a guidebook goes beyond the kind of like, for those nerdy kids out there like me, goes beyond the value of just like, here's some information about the animals or here's a map. Like, and they do give you a map for free, which is really, really nice. But maybe a little bit more, especially for the reserve, just like something that provided more information, and maybe in paperback form. They do have an audio guide, which I think you can get online. But I don't know, I would like to have some kind of book, like a souvenir type book or something. Yeah. Especially like when the animals are more elusive. You can even put the top tip type things in there for the people who get the guidebook because they're obviously a little more keen. I don't know, maybe something like that would be good. Just to provide more education, more like, just more kind of educational value there. The signage is all really good, but it's about having and creating that lasting impression that goes home with people as well, that they can think, what was that animal that looked a bit funny? Oh, it was the markhor. What was that thing that looked a bit strange? Oh, it was the tack. Like, they can get that kind of link back. So and maybe the addition of a guidebook
I'm
or
now
something.
Thinking like, because they don't have one at Edinburgh either. And that's often been a thing where I'm like, why don't we have one of this? Because people would ask, like, is there a guidebook I can buy at reception? And you're like, no, sorry, we don't have one. And it is a bit confusing. Like, why would you not have one? Because I feel like there would always be a market for a guidebook. Yeah. Even if they did something like just an RZSS one in general that talked about the zoo and the Highland Wildlife Park. And that might draw
people up and down.
That's what I was going to say, because a lot of people would come to Edinburgh when I worked there and didn't even know Highland Wildlife Park was a thing, much less that it was our sister site. So if you had one that was like half and half, and then I can highlight a little bit about both and then about like the wider projects that RZSS are doing.
Even make it more like a book. Because then it makes it more like it's not something people are going to throw away at the end of the day.
Well, I'm thinking like the ones at London and Whipsnade, like how that was just full of facts and it was great. Like because I know that a thing about guidebooks is you might spend a bunch of money printing a guidebook, and then if the animals in your collection change a lot, it's not gonna match up anymore. But if you made something a bit more general, that's not just talking about here's all the animals we've got, it's also talking about the history and the projects and conservation and all of that, then you could probably get away with it.
Or, what's just come into my head, instead of more and more guidebooks, do what Chester Zoo did. Make an app. Because if you had an app, you could have the app that's then sat on the dashboard of someone's car, they click play, round they drive, and then they can click maybe the next file, and it's got like a map on it, it can highlight different animals for them, like some kind of, just something else. Something more, I don't know what, but it's something that, I think there's an idea there, and I think an RZSS app would be so cool. I think I've just got the Giraffe About Town app that they're doing for over summer. RZSS has a trail of giraffe statues around Edinburgh that you need to find, and the app there, you earn rewards and stuff, so it can be done. Like, they've worked in collaboration with app makers. So I think, we could implement something like that to create a more immersive educational experience. And it uses technology in a way which, you're out in nature, it's familiar for kids, they'll know how to work it. Like, I don't know. It won't put them off. Like, if you hand a kid a book, maybe they might be like, oh, I don't know, I want to read. But if you give them an app, maybe that's the alternative. Like, I don't know. There's something there.
Yeah, there's an opportunity there.
Yes, I'll get David on the phone from I've interviewed David on the main podcast, CEO of RZSS. I'll get him on the phone and be like, excuse me, can we make a guidebook? I'll happily voice the audio guide or whatever it is. Just like, don't
need one now, just make them listen to this podcast.
Exactly, just edit bits of this out of just us rambling about animals. Now, after we've done 2 Stars and a Wish, our classics, we have to move on to our final standard addition to the podcast, which is, of course, our word of the ReZOO, which is very, very tricky. But
we've had some interesting
ones. This is usually when Jodi loses her mind. And so, Jodi, for you, what do you think the word that sums up the Highland Wildlife Park, everything we've talked about so far today, what is the one word that really sums that up for you?
For me, and I don't know if we've said this word before, but it fits with this, I just think it's inspiring.
Okay.
As a park, because I mean the location is inspiring, you know, just looking out. As you've talked about in your dramatic monologue, it's an inspiring place, inspiring people to care about nature and the conservation, and inspiring in all of the work that they're doing with their conservation projects behind the scenes and reintroducing things and sticking up for the little guys like with a hoverfly and just really practicing what they preach. about the conservation. And as I said before, especially because they are perhaps a bit smaller than, say, their sister site, Edinburgh Zoo, and other places, but they're still packing a punch with the conservation. And it just goes to show that, like, you know, it's maybe not the size of the park that matters, it's the size of the heart. And they're just so inspiring. Yep,
she's going off the rails again.
I just love them.
Happens every time. No, I couldn't agree more. I think it changed the Highland Wildlife Park, and being in the Highland Wildlife Park and having that moment in the Highland Wildlife Park changed the direction of my life and the way that I view the world of conservation, the world in general at large. It changed a lot of things that a lot of things that I have experienced, and I couldn't agree more that it is inspiring, it's fantastic, it's beautiful. It produces some of the most majestic baby animals we've ever talked about. It produces some of the most inspiring vistas looking out across nature, and you just feel at home and fantastic. Maybe home would have been better. Home or inspiring. We're going with inspiring. We're not twisting. It just feels like home and inspiring and beautiful and wonderful.
The moral of this story is, for anyone, but particularly people not from Scotland, get up to the Scottish Highlands, because it will just... You'll have some sort of spiritual epiphany up there. Clearly, it has that effect on us all.
Honestly, yes. You can, and once you're here, you'll never, ever, ever want to leave.
Yes. You'll take a piece of it away with you, and it'll live with you forever.
Yep. And on that note, Jodi, have you got any final thoughts or feelings about the Highland Wildlife Park and everything we've talked about so far today? I do this every time, and you're like, I don't know.
I was thinking something when I was talking about my wish. Something came into my head, and I thought, I need to mention that, but now I've forgotten what it was.
Oh well, it's the COVID hitting.
It is.
Yeah. Any ideas?
I'm annoyed because it was a good point, and now I can't think what it was. Just move on. I'll remember it when we're walking to get coffee and be like, damn, that's what I'm going to say. The COVID brain's hitting hard. Let's move on. So this is the longest conversation I've had for like the past week and a half, to be fair.
Yeah,
so I've done well.
You've done very well, Jodi. You're doing almost better than me, to be fair. And so yes, let's wrap up. The final thoughts always takes you off guard. I'm very sorry. To give listeners a little preview, let's talk about, I think, our next... We've just got back from London. Our London zoos have all been done now. We are posting this one, and our next ones, we've got our next trip planned. We're going to Bristol. Mm-hmm. We're going to be going to Bristol Zoo and the Wild Place. So listeners, look forward to that. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss out on that. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast from. Subscribe, and you can leave us a nice review so you don't miss out on our next ReZoos, especially if you've enjoyed this one. I hope you have. Then other things to mention while we wrap up. What else do I say? I like to say, make sure and follow us on social media. We're at Pangolin Podcast on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and also TikTok now. We're on the TikTok with the youths. So we're trying that out. I am very bad at it, but I'll get through. And yes, I think that's everything I like to mention. Of course, support the Highland Wildlife Park. Support the Highland Wildlife Park and Edinburgh Zoo and the RZSS and all of the fantastic work that they do. We had a fantastic, amazing day. And yeah, I just loved it. But before we ramble even longer, thank you all so much for listening. Thank you, Jodi, once again for joining me. And until next time, goodbye.
Bye.